31. You can get it if you're a subscriber. It will be coming to you already. And so, let's see, we have a lot of readers tonight, and so the way this is kind of going to work is everyone will come up. They will read for 5 minutes, no more than 5 minutes. At 5 minutes, people will start throwing chicken wings and programs at you because we want to hear from everyone, and everyone is incredible. So we'll cut you off at 5 minutes, and when you come up also, if you wouldn't mind introducing the person who follows. That'll keep us moving throughout the evening. And we will have a few intermissions at 10 and 11, so you can get a drink and refresh and talk more. And then the last thing that I want to mention, and it's something special about this winter issue, is that in it we have a poem dedicated to one of our editors and dear friends and collaborators, David I. And David I, just over a year ago, he passed away suddenly, and we miss him. And so one of our contributors, Dawn Manning, wrote a beautiful poem for David, and I'm going to read it tonight. I know she's here, and thank you, Dawn. I'm going to read it tonight in honor of David, to remember him and to celebrate all he did for 32 and for poetry. The poem is called The Day After. Now that I live by water, I see grief is the great blue heron, breast deep in the flow, splayed wings skewed into clumsy arches, as he tamps the air down into his own reflection with all the might hollow bones will allow. The grip of surface tension won't give way to a force less than an entire self. A teetering bulk, balancing the lopsided weight of will, he pitches with and against water and wind, nearly capsizes as he lifts off, skims the crisscross of cables and wires cutting through the view, the red bridge and stone house, the horizon dissected into too many pieces to puzzle back together without the seams showing. The creek ripples where he stood, the spruce scatters needles, speeds next spring with heavy cones. All right, and now without further ado, we have our first reader. She is wonderful, Katja Kuipers. Her 3 books include poems honored by publications in the Pushcart Prize, Best American Anthologies, and she is the intrepid editor of Poetry Northwest herself and a board member at the National Book Critics Circle. Everybody please welcome Katja. Lonely women make good lovers.
Let's try that again. Ooh, I'm here, I'm back here. Okay, I'm here. Lonely women make good lovers, sings the man on the country station. But that's not how I remember loneliness. Mostly too drunk to feel anyone's pleasure, and the next morning, that pitiful kinship of distance, except for the night he couldn't finish it, not in the meadow, not in his truck, until finally we stumbled through the blue light of his shared living room, because at the least he needed someplace put my hunger to bed. In the morning, he thought to make the misadventure right, while I looked out the window, examining the stars on the glass, bird shit, a feathered, unbroken blue sky, the same way I look down at my hands now, Everything, so plain, even my pain, which I thought anyone could see. I'm just gonna read one more. Is this too close? Carling, tell me, is this too close? Okay. All right, this is for everyone I've ever fucked who's at this AWP. Oh, there's so many of you out there. The magician at the woodpile. The blue tarp is covered in little pools of water that shimmer like sequins everywhere a wrinkle has gathered. I pull it off with a flourish and start digging through the kindling and logs until I found the dicks. All of them hidden in the back of the pile. The dicks I took in my mouth. The dicks that didn't ask permission. The dicks I loved and the dicks I never really knew. I remember holding them in my hands, how soft the skin, how various the shape, and cooing to each one, "You're the most beautiful dick I've ever seen," as if wonder were the only register my voice could work in. Now I stack the wood the way the dicks must have learned at camp, with the kindling at the bottom and the big logs on top. I add the dicks last, like a little pink crown of thorns. Then I light the whole thing on fire. I expect to see spiders come running out, rats even. I expect to hear screams, but there's nothing. Just a fire making me warm, even as the sun goes down at my back. Everything but my face suddenly in darkness, like I'm performing a magic trick, like the magic trick is me. Please welcome Monica Johnstown.
I'm American, she's Greek, and we've been writing poems that take place during the Greek military dictatorship, which ruled from 1907 to 1974, when we were 10, 17 years old. Okay, Ella, go.
The Three Sisters. How could we have known in those Junta days? We knew the olive grove's persistent nourishment was not a balm for the soles of the prisoners' feet. The beatings that radiated pain throughout the body but left no scar.
How did we know the fates wove us together years before? On their pale blue linen is a pattern, indiscernible at once. Raised threads were our figures drawing the crowded story, sometimes holding hands, sometimes dancing, sometimes alone at the edge.
One of us wears a burgundy polka dot dress, the other a blue hat and trousers. Did the seamstress finish her job? We wonder. We are on an island again. Your island, my island. Darkest sunglasses and blind the sea light at noon. Macronissus is uninhabited. The prison going to ruin, an archaeology. Now the moon rises behind its towers, a reverie people admire, a palimpsest, cloud in torture.
Now we're here where the air delivers a different fate, different bodies swimming lucid and efficient despite the half-century lapse. The fullness of time gave us to each other, not God the Father, it was the sisters. Flying fish. And then the days of the island when sea glass spelled starshine, a secret glyph among the petals, a building in miniature you needed to discover.
You, us, 24 hours and no direction, and we are weightless as flying fish whose beauty you cannot eat or make a photo of, a trophy held by the tail, the gills painfully open.
And then one of the trio of the junta conspirators came to the island. All the people came to overwhelm the square, to pose and to praise. The shopkeepers especially wanted to be seen snuggling with him, their pictures taken, and then printed and framed and hung alongside the photos of the dictator, the king, and JFK.
He held up a mason's trowel, emblem of future edifices, a scepter for the coronation. The crowd cheering, bravo, and live long. My uncles did not join in. They closed their shops and stayed home. That day, I swam for hours in the hallowed sea, not pausing, not letting the spell of my uncle's absence break.
Dark parade on Independence Day. What if the tanks outside our balcony changed to pink and black water beneath them flooded the streets instead of blood?
You left your desk to experience the change, the thunder of the caterpillar threads breaking the boulevard asphalt. The ground shook us all as the parade, celebrating our independence, demonstrated our lack.
No dancing, no regional costumes, no jingling and glinting of jewelry, or none that can be remembered in the maze of terror. The crowd's faces expressionless, but not tone deaf, not to cheer with strength, disobedience.
We stood on the balcony, still anticipating the collapse, the sunset like blown glass, or perhaps like a mined ore when night fell. You were still gambling, still writing in your skilled calligraphy, not hiding your pages carefully enough. Sometimes 3 a day, a repetition of raptures you could not resist.
Armin Davoudian is the author of the poetry collection, The Palace of 40 Pillars, and a PhD candidate in English at Stanford University.
Hi, it's really bright here. This poem is called Facing Pages. It's about those editions of books where you have one language on one side and the other language on the other side. Reading a parallel text tragedy, Persian and English, on opposite sides, like lovers whom an ancient grudge divides. I think of gentle Mr. Javadi, copying the cloudy verses out in white, as I followed with blue meanings where he led, and we alternated, trying to keep straight. Till the blackboard was striped like the bedspread I sweated my pent-up love out on each night, then lay there with my hands unwashed and read the story of Majnun's forbidden love, which sent him roaming deserts in search of the sweet beloved he would never reach. When I closed the book, two tongues touched. Thank you. Okay, please welcome to the stage Jared Harold.
Hey everybody, how we doing? Good to see you all. I can't actually see you all, but I saw you before. It's very bright up here. I'm going to read two poems from my new collection that came out this fall, Let Our Bodies Change the Subject. It came out from University of Nebraska Press. And I want to say I'm just thrilled to be here at a reading with some of my very favorite presses and journals together. So this is a book that's kind of knee-deep in parenthood. I have two kids, an 11-year-old daughter and an 8-year-old son, both of whom make it into the book a lot, to their tremendous delight. So this poem has a tiny bit of singing in it, for which I apologize in advance. It's called All I've Ever Wanted. The almond milk has turned. Flecks of foul snow slink in slow liquid. Not the discovery I had angled for this morning, but as my dad likes to sing like some Jewish Mick Jagger, you can't always get what you want. Which is just what I croon to my two children, driving them up the wall, because of course, all they want is to get what they want. A fifth scoop of gelato, to play Minecraft till their eyeballs pixelate in their skulls. What humbling work to haul kids toward thoughtful, the kind, inhuman kind, like a foreign language on a stubborn tongue. Yet even as a toddler, my son would refuse a lollipop if his sister didn't get one, still plucks an extra sticker to gift her after school. And hell, my daughter can't ride an elevator without making a new friend or some lady's day by praising her earrings, her sweater, her purse. My point about discovery has escaped me by now, though I know the old chorus for thwarted desire. My cereal will be dry, coffee taken black. I will try, against hope, to be better than myself, which is all I've ever wanted, and everything I need. Thank you. And I'm going to read one more poem. This is a poem I wrote after one of the strangest family dinners I've ever been a part of. I don't know if there's any gamers out there, but you would have understood more about what was happening in this conversation than I understood. The poem is called Survival Mode. Our daughter is killing villagers again. I'm upset because we talked about this, the villager killing, last week over dinner, and how we're totally not okay with it. Now here she is, killing villagers again. It was different this time, our daughter insists. I just needed somewhere to sleep. She spears a single green bean, lifts it to her lips. You can't get mad at me for needing somewhere to sleep. Our son nods along, either listening or bouncing his bangs into his eyes. My wife and I glance at each other. Truth be told, we need more information. What was she doing roaming a village with nowhere to sleep? Was killing really the last reasonable resort? Couldn't we have bartered or built her own bed? We're set to interrogate when our son suddenly stops bobbing his head to ask what a villager looks like dead. Oh, says our daughter, setting down her fork. You know how dead cows look? All red after they fall to the ground? Same with villagers. They just die, and that's it. And then they disappear. Thank you. Do I read the next name? Okay. The next reader, I'm sorry if I mispronounced the last name, is Stephanie Mew.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you to the editors for hosting this event, and especially to Jasmine from Quarterly West for inviting me. Thank you all for spending your late evening of AWP here with us. I'm going to read 2 poems. I'm starting with the poem that was in Quarterly West. It's called Him, like the song, not the pronoun. And the last line of this poem quotes a line from Henri Michaud's book, Miserable Miracle, which is an account of his first time doing mescaline, the psychedelic, which I read in an attempt to sort of ready me for a trip to Paris, which it didn't. This is him. I want to stop taking drugs for granted. Desire makes me serious. I keep busy by looking for the center. Squirrel tail, blue slivers cohere around a wire. The burning between my back and sternum. How we wake in pairs. In Paris, I made a nest in the idea of you. You read aloud in a language I could not understand. You made sense without me. In the absence of pure translation, pure sentences. We cannot know. We shed our coats. We measure the sun against our watches, wanting seconds back from the dark. I touch your cheek to mark the picture in my head I make. We fall asleep just long enough to dream in private fear, so thoroughly ours. Thank you. And my last poem is called I Crossed the Sea Boardwalk, and it's about returning to a particular location on an island called Christmas Island that I write about extensively, the latest of which is in a chapbook that I have if you want a copy afterwards. This is I Crossed the Sea Boardwalk. I crossed the sea boardwalk tentatively, as if entering back into a dream. Faulty beams were marked with orange cones. I stepped lightly. My blue dress blew in the wind, long and impractical. In practice, I had been here before. I had practiced returning for years in my mind. When I reached the clearing, I was devastated to find nothing had changed. The ice plant sat green, wet, chalky with salt. Limestone jagged toward the horizon. The blue-billed seabirds regarded me with warranted suspicion. If the dream is dreamlike as real life, I reasoned, then nothing can be real. Yet I sat in a patch of matted grass, seasoned with salt I could feel. The mystery of eels is that we don't know exactly how they breathe. Aristotle thought they come from nothing. The miracle is that there is any other way to arrive. I am saying I stepped off the same boardwalk twice. Behind me, a plane left the island carrying someone I love. Ice plants carry entire seasons of water in their leaves, drunk from the air, come from nothing. I came from nothing, and when I returned, it was still there. Thank you. Next up, please welcome Jeffrey Brock.
Thank you. I'm going to read 2 poems. First poem is forthcoming in 32 poems, and I want to thank the editors for that. It's called Annunciation, and I just need to explain one thing about the poem, which is that the title and a couple of lines are struck out, and I was trying to figure out what to do about that when reading it out loud, and I think I'm going to make a hand gesture when I'm reading a line that's struck out, if that makes sense. Again, it's called Annunciation, and I might want to think about like a Renaissance painting. I was thinking about Simone Martini's painting of the Annunciation. And these are both the poems that I'm going to read are from a series of poems I wrote after my father died a few years ago. This one is about his cancer diagnosis. Annunciation. The doctor enters, an angel in teal, lifting her eyes and leaning toward my father to speak, an olive branch in her pale hand, a stethoscope in her pale hand, draped on a clipboard. Her voice becomes a torrent light, an interior wind. My father, in bed, tries to turn away. Between and above them, a gold dove hovers and blows. A drip bag, backlit, hovers and glows. Monitors chirp. Blocks of words fly from the book that lies half open in my lap. Thank you. The second poem is actually forthcoming from Literary Matters, so shout out to Ryan for that. And it's called Betrayal, and it's actually based formally on a Robert Lowell poem called Rebellion, which is also a poem about his father. And I actually don't love the Lowell poem, but I love the form of it, which was kind of like a sonnet that's been hit with a baseball bat a couple of times. Betrayal. There was betrayal, Father, when you broke the pact we'd sealed one evening with 2 snuffed cigarettes, that neither of us would smoke again if the other didn't. But why am I left tonight? Though 30 years have passed and death has stretchered you, gasping for air away, going again on that day, your voice, your breath, as you, lost in the rush of a fresh crush, tell me your latest news. The week of you, a proof, I thought, of weakness, love. I'd wanted you to save me, Father, by saving yourself, for us to save each other. That you couldn't or wouldn't was something I didn't want ever to have learned. A truth that burned down the road of my lives, back toward my birth, and forth toward future children, future lives. Thank you. And next, please welcome the splendid Kim Adonisio.
Kim Adonisio.
Sorry, I couldn't get my shit together, figure out where I was or what I was supposed to be doing. So, since this is such a loud room to read, I thought I'd start with something about sex, just to, right? Okay. All right, I'm gonna read 2 or 3, depending on how much time. Okay, this is one that just got rejected. So, but obviously not from Smartish Pace, because they know what they're doing. It's rejected from Blackbird. I'm reading for them tomorrow night. I was going to read it for them just to bug the shit out of them, but I'm going to do it here instead. It's called Self-Portrait as a Goldfish Trapped in a Toilet. To be stuck at a reception with a man who fucked you once, another opportunity to feel like a small freshwater fish. And remember those nights back in the Precambrian, before you devolved from a primitive life form that would gulp some whiskey at a party, and then float off in a stranger's car to a bed above a garage, and lie there spinelessly for the zeptoseconds it took him. Back then there was hardly any oxygen, and no one was woke. Orgasms with men were a few billion miles away. Orgasms. You had no idea how to get one. Men dining and dashing while you were still pulling out your chair. He's married now, he's got kids, good for him. Another opportunity for revenge fantasies. Shadowy wraiths drag him from the hotel ballroom, down through the gates of disc where there's no open bar. A fetal alien creature, long dormant in a cheese puff, slithers down his throat, bursts from his stomach, and races under a long white tablecloth. You could follow it and hide under there until everyone leaves. But he's the first to turn away, and it's just like before. He's done and moving away from you in record time. Time. What you wasted being even briefly attracted to people like him. You flushed out to sea once more. Sorry, but this is called Blues on Avenue C when I was living in the Lower East Side for a while in New York. I'm depressed. At night from my window I'd watch the liquor store owner drag down his metal door, the spray-painted portrait of his wife materializing above the dates of her birth and death. She had those eyes that follow you around. I couldn't see the stars that winter unless they froze and fell like broken glass. The moon was so high it looked like an overdose. I was so sick with grief I wanted to stab the streetlight behind its curtain of fog and deliver a mournful soliloquy to a trembling dog under a blank marquee. The stoplights rocked in ruthless wind. Bicycles churned through the slushy intersection. A staggering blanket-clad couple paused to argue beneath the wife's uneven blue eyes, their voices rising up to meet me, full of song and misery. And I'll do this one. This was in Smartish Pace. It's called Therefore I Am Nothing. It's probably best not to think too much about my terminally ill cat, or to wonder whether my mentally ill brother is dead or alive right now. Which makes me think of my cat again because of Schrodinger's experiment. What was it anyway? Some kind of thought experiment? I remember there was a cat in a box and some poison. But I don't want to think about poison, another bad thing in my head. Except that now I am, but at least I don't personally know anyone who is poisoned. Ancient kings and nobles, Hercules and hatters, some enemies of Putin. So I'm feeling okay now. Poison, poison, poison. No anxiety at all. People are waiting in line in Mexico to fill tanks with oxygen for dying abuelos. The Greenland ice sheet is melting faster than a butter stick in a microwave. Australian clownfish can't find the reef. All that noise from humans and their machines. That's how I think of it, humans and their machines. Like I'm not one of them, but I am. And now I have to bring up Descartes, who thought animals had no minds, just mechanical sensations. One more anthropocentrist ruining the picnic for everyone. Can't we all just take off our tacky outfits and be nectar in a bee-loud glade? Open the box, don't open the box, ignore the box. The cat knows. Also, I don't understand Cartesian dualism, but I hate it with a simplistic, uncomprehending hatred, unlike the jaded and cosmopolitan disgust I feel for God. I guess the cat can't know anything if it's already dead, and something went wrong with my brother's brain years ago. And if the earth is having any thoughts, they're probably along the line of stop poisoning me. Now I'm wondering whose ashes were scraped from the columbarium along with my mother's. I don't think she's playing tennis with Jesus in heaven. Mostly I try not to think anymore. Just stare at the place between words and their meanings and wait for some less monstrous feeling to be born and lift toward me. Thanks. And I think we're going to hear from Steph next from Smartish Pace. Thanks.
Thanks, Kim. Yes, I'm Stefan Reichert with Smartish Pace. Thanks everybody for coming out tonight. We really appreciate it. Thanks to all the poets. So, Smartish Pace is a poetry magazine. I started 26 years ago. We're out of Baltimore. We're independent, and you can check us out, at AWP. 3 of our editors are here tonight, I think, but I'll give them a shout out. And if they're not here, well, that sucks. But Jocelyn Heath has been a great editor for Smartish Pace. She may be in the building. Claire Banks. And I did see the lanky Dan Cryer here, so I know Dan is here. Thanks to them. They do a good job. I want to thank the poets who read and are about to read, but especially the Smartish Pace poets. I know this was a tough ask. Will you come read sometime between 9 and midnight for 3 to 5 minutes? Before AWP. So thank you so much to Kim Adinizio, Aliki Barnstone, Aaron Bells, who's going to be reading at around 11, Christian Gillette, Kevin Trooper, and Liana Sakalio. So thank you to all those Smartish Pace poets for showing up tonight. I really appreciate it. And for letting us publish your good poems. I think for sending us the good ones. I still have a few drink tickets left. These will get you a free beer. I think we're down to a couple $100, but if you want that, come up here and get it from me. And I'm told there's food over here, so is that still true? Yeah, there's food, so there's free food if you want free food. All right, we're gonna take a short break and we'll see you in a little bit.